Good afternoon, friends. Ryan Dohrn here, and thrilled to have all of you joining us here for an amazing webinar today that we're going to have together. And it's called Selling to Advertisers Plagued by Instant Gratification Syndrome. And those are the people out there that they want ROI right now. Someone the other day said, ROI, kind of a new buzzword out there. No, it's not. Everybody wants ROI, and it doesn't matter what part of your life you're dealing with. You want instant gratification right now. There's a comedian right now on Netflix. His name is Ronnie Chin, and Ronnie's a really funny guy. And you know how we've got Amazon Prime, like you go online, you order, you kind of get whatever you want, within just a couple of days. And he said he predicts that it's going to be Amazon Now. Like, give it to me right now. As soon as I press the button, I want my package. I want my stuff right now. And that's what we're dealing with out there in advertiser sales land. So for those of you that don't know me, I sell media every day, just like all of you. Just to be clear, I sell advertising, event sponsorships, podcast sponsorships, digital. My wife produces 13 events a year. I sell all the media for that, the books that go along with it, the webcast, the television, the broadcast. You name it, I sell it. I work with newspapers, with TV stations, with magazine companies. And so as I'm walking across the country, I'm seeing a lot of similar things, friends, a lot of advertisers plagued by instant gratification syndrome. So how do we sell to these people, especially those of us that sell traditional media, print, broadcast, out of home, etc.? It is a challenge. I got some new advice for you today. So I think that's important. Okay, over the course of time, I've worked with over 500 magazines and newspaper titles, some of which, not all of them, some of which obviously are here on the screen. You'll see a general mix of consumer magazines, B2B magazines, newspapers, as well as TV stations. I've trained about 20,000 ad sales reps, and I still sell media today. Absolutely love my job. Why, Ryan? Why do you love your job? Media has fed me successfully for 28 years, has fed my family for 28 years. I love the media business, but times are a-changing. So what we've got to do is make sure that we're really hyper-focused on what we can do to sell to these people, these advertisers that are overloaded with, I want ROI right now, Ryan. I can't buy a magazine ad because I can't track it. I can't buy a newspaper ad because I can't track it. I can't buy TV because I can't track it. I want a report right now. Well, friends, I wish I could say that I've got a silver bullet with one slide that'll fix everything. I do have some ideas for you, though, that I think are going to be vividly important. So thank you once again to the magazine manager and the newspaper manager for making webinars like this happen. So reach out to them. Be sure to tell them thanks. All right. So media, that's all I've done ever since college, advanced publishing, my very, very first job. In the publishing business. And then I got into the TV business and I loved it. And then I did radio for a while. Then I did local media at ABC TV in Chicago and all across the country. I was a group publisher at Penwell. I worked at Morris for 11 some odd years, 45 some odd magazines strong. So friends, I'm here to tell you the media business has changed, and guess what? We're knee deep in it, neck deep in it. All right, let's walk through 8 ideas for you on a Friday afternoon to help you really, really wrap your head around how do we sell to these advertisers plagued with instant gratification system. Focus point number 1, or idea number 1, jot it down. Most salespeople sell the way that they want to be sold. Most salespeople sell the way that you want to be sold. You typically sell the way that you want to be sold. So when you're dealing with somebody that is plagued by instant gratification syndrome, IGS for short, when you're dealing with somebody like that, you have to make sure that you are in alignment with them. If you are a logical seller and you're dealing with an emotional buyer, no amount of data, facts, or stats is going to sway them. They're emotional. It's all about how they feel. Maybe it's that they feel they can't buy a magazine ad from you because they know you're not going to give them a report, so they can't show it to their boss to prove their existence. Maybe you're dealing with an agency buyer that's completely logical, but you, as a seller, you are an emotional seller. So you come at it from an emotional perspective. That buyer might be coming at it from a logical perspective. Now, the FBI tells us we've got about 7 or 8 different personality types that can be split out multitudes of ways. I break it down like this. I've got a bucket of ego-driven buyers. I've got a bucket of logical buyers. And then I've got a bucket of emotional buyers, or a group. So I've got a group of ego-driven buyers, logical buyers, and emotional buyers. Okay, so pop quiz for everybody on a Friday afternoon, pop quiz. When you think about each of those groups, what percentage would you assign to each of those groups? How big do you think these various groups are? For example, if you were to put a percentage to it, would you say ego-driven people is 50%? Maybe logical is 30%? And then maybe emotional is 20%? I guess that doesn't add up to 100, but what percentage would you assign to each of those? Just kind of maybe jot it down on a piece of paper. And then I'm going to tell you, based on our research, what we have found. So think about it for a second. Talk amongst yourselves, okay? What percentage of your audience, okay, of your readers, of your viewers, of your listeners, whatever, are ego-driven? What percentage are logical? What percentage are emotional? Okay, would you be surprised to know that over the course of the last 2 years, Brainswell Media, my company, we evaluated and we reviewed almost 1,200 different proposals. We asked salespeople, when you presented this, what type of person were you dealing with? We didn't ask advertisers to self-identify because all of them would say they're logical. We asked the sales rep, when you were presenting this, who were you presenting to? A logical person, an emotional person, or an ego-driven person? Here's what we found out, that about 5%, so after 1,200 proposals studied in 12 different markets, we found that about 5% of the buyers we were presenting to were ego-driven buyers. We found that about 30% were logical buyers. We found the vast majority of folks were emotional. The vast majority of folks were emotional. Okay, so think about this. You're trying to have an ROI conversation with somebody. You're a logical driven seller, just as an example. I'm emotional. A lot of you are logical. You're a logical driven seller. You're trying to have an ROI conversation with an emotional person, and you're giving them facts and stats and figures to convince them to buy your traditional media product. You, friends, have a mismatch. It doesn't matter if you're selling a car, banking services, software, it doesn't matter. You've got to match yourself to the person that's potentially buying. So how do you figure it out? How do you figure out what? That's the question that's coming through, like 90 people have asked. Okay, how do you figure out who you're dealing with? First and foremost, I go to LinkedIn. You can tell in an instant if somebody is an egomaniac, if they're logical or emotional. Look at their LinkedIn profile. So if someone calls themselves a guru, okay, that is a clear sign that they've got an ego. If someone says something like, I love my job, okay, they're emotional. Come on, it's pretty easy to spot. Logical people. I just was working with an advertiser this morning, and she's awesome, but she is completely logical. She's like, on her LinkedIn profile, I am a digital specialist. I only buy media that gives me fast ROI. I only buy media that's proven and tested. Okay, that's not emotional. That's a logical person. Friends, we could spend all day on this one point, but I ask you to consider this. When you are trying to sell to somebody that wants ROI right now, you've got to figure out, why do they want that ROI right now? What is it? Is it they need to give something to their boss? Is it how they feel about it? Is it something that's based in facts or stats or statistics of some kind? When you've got a mismatch on your hands, you got a problem on your hands. And it's hard to explain and fight a problem when you don't know who you're fighting with. Now, it leads us to focus point number 2. And by the way, we could spend all day at your office on focus point 1. So let's move on to focus point 2. It leads right into this. Typically, you are taught by your mentor, a trainer, whatever. You're taught to ask questions. You're taught to work people through a needs assessment. Well, friends, you got to be really careful because needs assessments, they're great, but they often reveal what a client wants and not necessarily what a client needs. Everybody follow me on that? Super important. You've got to be careful because needs assessments and the questions you ask often reveal what somebody wants and not what they actually need. The reason this is important to bring up in this conversation is they want ROI. What does that mean to them? What does ROI actually mean? Because with the end result that they want, they may choose the media that's not going to give them the end result that they want. So it is incumbent upon us as media salespeople to listen to what they want, but then guide them to what they actually need to get the ROI that they actually want. So I like to ask this question. When you agreed to meet with me, what problem were you hoping that I could help you solve? I think it's a great one as we're talking about balancing out ROI. When you agreed to meet with me, what problem were you hoping that I could solve? Or when you agreed to meet with me, what goal are you trying to achieve that you think I could help you get there? What does this look like to you? And the reason that this is such a vital question to ask is because if you can figure out what the problem is, you can back them into an ROI scenario that makes sense. This is different, though, than saying to someone, hey, what's your goal? What's your desire? It's different than that. When you agreed to meet with me, what problem were you hoping that I could solve? Well, Ryan, I need new customers. Okay, new customers. Tell me more about that. Well, I need fresh leads. Great. Tell me more about that. Let's get specific. The more specific you can get, the better your chance of guiding the ROI conversation. Remember something, friends. Everyone's definition of ROI, someone just asked, what is ROI? Friends, I don't mean to be ugly. ROI stands for return on investment. Okay, return on investment. All right. If someone wants to get amazing ROI, it might be money, it might be leads, it might be clicks, it might be a phone calls or whatever the circumstance is. Remember, ROI comes in various shapes and sizes. Okay, various shapes and sizes. All right, it leads us to focus point number 3. You've got to be setting their expectations up front. You got to control the narrative from up front. That's why right here sitting next to me, I've got what I refer to as my sales call roadmap. Okay, this is a roadmap that I follow on every sales call. Now, we're not going to teach that today. I can teach it to you, but the sales call roadmap is a very specific step-by-step process that I use on every single sales call to make sure that I'm addressing return on investment, ROI. I'm addressing it right here, right now. I'm not waiting until the campaign launches. What I'm doing is I'm setting those expectations right up front, right at the very beginning. So what I'm doing is I'm asking questions during my needs assessment, during my consultative selling. I'm asking questions like, if we could create the perfect marketing campaign for you, what do you want to see happen? Because if someone says to me, I need new customers, well, clicks do not necessarily equal new customers. So Mr. or Mrs. Advertiser, when you say you need clicks to your website, that counts as a new customer? Well, no. I need them to come to the website and then buy something. Oh, okay. So what you need is me to get you the clicks, then your website is going to convert them to a buyer. So at a certain point, my responsibility ends. Because if I can get you some clicks, I can do that. I can't control if somebody buys. Well, no. I actually need people to buy. You guys follow me on this? Okay, no, I actually need people to buy. Okay, So what you want me to do is you want me to run a campaign for you and you need clicks, okay? Then I'm going to hand them over to you. You have to convert them to a buyer. I can't convert them to a buyer for you. That's your part of the puzzle. So at the end of our campaign, if I can show you X number of clicks, I've done my part of it. Then it's up to you guys to do your part of it. And friends, this is just kind of one scenario. Let me give you a local media scenario. I have advertisers all the time that say, yeah, I mean, people came in to the store, but they didn't buy anything. Okay, so at the very beginning of the sales call, I'm asking, what does ROI, immediate return on investment, what does that mean to you? Because I can maybe get them to your door, but my ability to convert them, that ends at the door, because quite honestly, that's on you. That's your piece of it. So my ROI is, can I get them to your door? Oh, well, yeah. So how do we track that? That's pretty straightforward. So local media tracking, I can actually take my subscriber database, my magazine subscribers, or my email database. I can load that into a database, and I can track people's device IDs from their home to them actually buying something in the store, or not actually buying, but actually coming to the store. If I'm in the B2B business, I can take my reader database and I can load that into a larger advertising database, and I can track devices that actually go to a trade show or devices that go to some type of industry event. So we have the ability to track a lot of things. We're going to talk about untrackable in a second. We've got the ability to track people, but what if they don't want to be tracked? Or what if it's not important to the ROI conversation? For me, a lot of it is we don't do a very good job of setting our expectations right up front. That's why I like questions like this, and I'm not such a big fan of some of the other questions that I hear out there. For example, one of the worst questions, I hate this question. So, John, what keeps you up at night? It's super overused. It doesn't test well. Younger buyers think it's creepy as heck. So, I mean, I want to be careful about that one. How about this question? Bill, what marketing's working for you right now? Well, you just invited them to talk about, they're not running with you, or you wouldn't be on the sales call. You just invited them to talk about other media that they're currently using that they like that's not you. So that's not really necessarily a good question. So why not switch to questions that will focus us more on ROI and set their expectations up front? If we could create the perfect marketing campaign for you, what would you want to see happen? Then you begin the discussion of ROI and what ROI you can control. But wait, friends, there's more. If you really want to get over the hump of this ROI conversation, you have to explain the sales funnel to explain potential ROI. You've got to explain the sales funnel to explain the ROI potential. Okay, now we're going to park here for a minute. I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to spend a little time on it because, friends, if you wrap your head around this, you're going to sell more media and you're going to have happier customers. Okay, here we go. This is the typical sales funnel. Now, if we're being honest with each other, at the end here, usually there's 4 stages. There's buying that happens down here, buy, okay? I can't control if someone's going to buy, so I don't put it on my slide. You with me? Okay, you're my advertiser. You're on a sales call with me, and I'm doing this exact same thing right here. This is part of my slide deck. I would simply say, if you're looking for great ROI, we've got to figure out how ROI applies to every stage of your sales funnel. And so in the awareness stage of the funnel is where people aren't actively buying. Instead, you are making them aware of your product or service so that at such time, they're ready to move to the yellow stage. They're ready to do something. They are aware of you. During that particular stage, that awareness stage, the vast majority of people are not ready to buy. Now, once they have a need or a need arises or a business circumstance or something like that, that's when they move to the interest stage. That's where they begin to do research. That's where they begin to think about you in more detail. They start visiting your website a little bit more. Maybe they fill out a lead form online, but they're still not ready to buy. They're not ready to make a decision yet. But that's an important group of people that are there too. You got to be reaching them. Then you've got your last group of people. These are the people that are about to make a decision. They're about to move to the bottom. They're going to buy from somebody, but that blue stage is where they have to make a decision to buy. There are people, Mr. or Mrs. Advertiser. Remember, friends, I'm talking to you today like I'm talking to an advertiser. This is what I'd be saying. There are different numbers of people at these various stages of your sales funnel. Whether you're talking to someone that sells automotive, whether you're talking to someone that sells MRI machines, whether you're talking to somebody that sells a multi-million-dollar excavator, every company out there has a sales funnel. All right, I'm going back to you being the advertiser now. Okay, Mrs. Advertiser. Okay, tell me, what is your guess? How many people, like our readers out there, how many people are in each one of those stages from a percentage perspective? How many people do you think are in each one of those stages? Like, for example, do you feel like 50% of our readers or our viewers are in the awareness stage and maybe 40% are at that interest stage? Or do you feel like 50% are about to make a decision? Of our readers, of our viewers, typically, what do you think our audience is doing? How are they reacting to buying different things? What's amazing to me is, and now I'm not talking to you as an advertiser, I'm talking to you sales rep to sales rep. What's amazing to me is that people get it wrong every time. They get it wrong every single time. Now, so where did I come up with the numbers I'm going to share with you next? Well, I was reading an article written by Steve Richard from Vorsight Consulting, and I thought it was really great. And what it told us is that in general, okay, not every market's unique, I get it, but in general, most buying markets look very, very similar. And that's why I've put in here about a 1 to 4% differential. All right, let me ask you as a group, how many people, what percentage of people in your audience do you think are in each one of these stages? And remember, the number I'm going to give you is a number that's national. However, I did a lot of research on this. Steve's numbers are right. Almost in every market, it works out to be just about like this. This is the percentage. What's interesting is whether you're selling software or you're selling cars, it's about the same. Approximately 56% of people. So remember, there's a differential of about 5-ish%. So somewhere between, it's 56. So somewhere between 50 and 60% of people, okay, it could be a pretty big swing there, are not ready to buy. It doesn't mean these people aren't important, because we need to move them from awareness to the next stage. About 40% are looking, but still they're not ready to buy. Only about 3 to 5% are in that decision-making stage where they're going to give you some good ROI. Only about 3 to 5%. Even if we swing the differential, it's still not 10%. Okay? It might be less than that depending upon your market. Why am I sharing this? Because what they're expecting as an advertiser, they're expecting to get 100% of people to respond. Wait a minute. I just ran this campaign with you. I need ROI like right now. I mean, right now. I need it right now. Well, the problem with that is I'd love to do that. If I could give you immediate ROI from 100% of my audience, friend, I mean, I'd be a multimillionaire. But that's magical. I mean, if that happened like that, that would be magical. We don't sell magic. We sell marketing. And the only thing that marketing and magic have in common is the letter M. That's it. So the reality of the situation is there are medias out there that are better for each of these stages. Let me say that again. there's media out there that is better in each one of these stages to force people. Now, there can be a difference between local media, national media, B2B, out of home. There can be some differences as to what media works best in each one of these stages. So I'm going to give you some generalities, okay? In general, awareness is usually a great stage for print media, regular TV media, out of home, radio. Those type of traditional media enterprises are usually really great for awareness because Mr. or Mrs. Advertiser, it allows you to cast a fairly large net. Okay, you can cast a fairly large net with an awareness campaign at an affordable rate. Now, before you chat questions across about this, I'm not saying that digital doesn't work from an awareness perspective. What I'm saying is that scientists tell us that we scroll, okay, on our mobile phones at a rate greater than 87 miles an hour. Okay, Google it if you don't believe me, okay? Google, the ultimate source. Google it if you don't believe me. Digital for me, in my opinion, is a little bit better when people move more towards research, because then they're closer to being able to research on their computer, closer to being able to research on their phone. And hey, this is just one guy's opinion, you know, and this is a free webinar, so I get to give my own opinion. So you've got to ask yourself, what media would work better at each of these stages? Okay, now, several questions came across. Are you seriously suggesting that we would show that only 3 to 5% of our people are going to make a decision to purchase this particular advertiser's product? I am suggesting to you that you need to create or craft a narrative that makes sense for your company to explain why it is that an advertiser is not going to get the ROI they think that they're going to get. When advertisers are educated and they read these type of things correctly, and you can actually explain it to them, different medias give different ROI. So for example, we've got about 96% of people that are not going to give you an immediate piece of ROI because they're not ready to do it. So people in the awareness stage are probably not engaging with your brand, clicking on things about your brand. They're not in the mood to do that. They're not in a place in their life or circumstance to do that. Now, somebody just asked a great question. What if you're talking about direct response? Okay, great thought, great question. Now, direct response advertising. Direct response advertising will blow the sales funnel away and will shove someone through the sales funnel fast, because direct response marketing is based on 3 things: a compelling price, a compelling offer, and some type of reward for responding right now. Again, direct response. Every direct response ad has 3 elements to it, whether it's the Thigh Master or My Pillow. Compelling price, compelling offer, some type of instantaneous reward. Let me give you an example. Buy this Ginsu knife right now, and it'll cut through this Coke can for $9.99. But if you buy also right now, we're going to give you a paring knife for free. That's the compelling offer piece. And watch this paring knife cut through this 16-penny nail or whatever. But wait, there's more. If you buy right now, we'll also give you an HD tactical flashlight, as if you're going to be using your Ginsu knives in the dark, but whatever. It has to have those 3 things. So if you're working with an advertiser that wants immediate ROI, like right now, well, we can help them with that. But they would have to format their offer, their price, and their ad to be direct response. What you need to be listening for as a salesperson, and friends, we could spend all day on this. As a salesperson, you need to be listening for, okay, so you want me to be a magician. You want me to give you magic. Now, I'm not going to say it like that, obviously, but I just want y'all to understand that if you're going to control the ROI conversation, the only way to do that is to educate that advertiser and help take them to the next level. Now, some of you have chatted across. This works great for people that will give you the time of day. What about, to the people that, cannot give you a particular time of day? Well, or they don't want to meet with you or whatever the circumstance is. For me, it's important to recognize it's tough to get meetings, but if we do have an opportunity to get them, and we could talk about prospecting all day long, if once we have the opportunity to get them, it's important, friends, you got to educate them. I tell people all the time, if you think yourself as a teacher, okay, you'll always have a better circumstance. You'll always have a better scenario in the grander scheme of things, thinking yourself as a teacher. Now, some of the questions you guys are sending across are awesome, but those questions relate to prospecting, and prospecting is just a little bit different conversation. However, head over to 360adsales.com and you'll find some information on that, okay? So thanks for those questions. Here's the question I, though, want to ask my advertiser. How much of your marketing budget do you dedicate to each stage of the sales funnel? How much of your marketing budget, do you dedicate to each stage of the sales funnel? And the reason that that's important to ask is because it's their sales funnel, your sales funnel. If you actually walk them through the funnel, what you're going to find out is there are ROI conversations that can be had. Like if digital is a primary part of the blue stage, then let's put some money there. But if we ignore the red and the yellow stage, we're ignoring a tremendous amount of people. Friends, you can't have interest without awareness. You can't have awareness if people don't know. People can't make a decision if they've not done the research and they're not aware of a product. That's why you've got to walk people through this. How much of your marketing budget do you dedicate to each phase of your sales funnel? Well, Ryan, we put 95% of our budget on that dedicate, the decision phase down there, the D phase, the blue phase. Well, if you do that, you're never going to get the ROI that you want because you're spending too much money on a particular piece of the sales process. You're ignoring the other important pieces. Friends, the better you get at this, the more you'll sell, the more educated your advertisers are, typically, the more they buy. So it's something that you really got to think about. All right, coffee break for a second. We're not done. Don't go anywhere. I just wanted to thank the magazine manager, the newspaper manager, for sponsoring this webinar today. So reach out to the fine folks. Thank you very much to Greg and Mark and Andy and Dennis, Susan, and everybody that's over there, Stephanie. Thanks so much, everybody, for your support of these type of webinars. Reach out to those folks. Tell them thank you, okay? All right, focus point number 5. As we all know, frequency. Frequency is the key to ROI success. If we want to get great ROI for our advertisers, and we want to deal with these folks that are plagued by IGS, we've got to help them really understand what frequency means. Now, because so many salespeople are logical oriented, you're logical in your nature, what a lot of times you do is you see a chart like this and you get all giddy. You're like, woo, I love this. Look at this. Finally some proof that if you run more than 10 ads, you're going to get some great ROI, okay? Be careful, friends. That's a logical conversation. So maybe don't pull this out and show it to every advertiser. All right, let's look at this graph together. The bottom line, the baby blue line, baby blue line is intent. The dark blue line above is awareness. Okay, let me explain those to you. So awareness is going to be how aware someone is of your product or service. The intent is their purchase intent, like their ability or their desire to purchase a product. All right, so in a 30-day period of time, that's what this report is, 30 days, somebody that is exposed 10 times to a particular product, you can see that the awareness line grows, the purchase intent line grows as well. Now you'll notice after the second exposure, so it starts out that if you run an ad, Mr. or Mrs. Advertiser, one ad is going to give you about a 5 to 6% lift in awareness and intent, whatever it is. Let's just say we're selling this little Ramdazzle coffee cup right here. One ad is going to give you about a 5 to 6% lift in people being aware and people's purchase intent. Okay, when you run that second ad, their purchase intent grows a little bit, but their awareness almost doubles. So that's proof that you need to run at least 2 ads. Now, notice something. Between the second ad and the 6th and 7th ad, there's not a whole lot of growth in how aware somebody is. After that second ad, they've been banking that information. Now, once you get beyond that 7th ad, boom, get to the 8th ad, everything starts to grow. Awareness grows, purchase intent grows. Then all of a sudden it drops, and then it spikes. Why is that? Well, because in nature, in finance, that's how things do. That's how things operate. That's how things that's how things do. That's how things go. All right? Trying to be funny there, by the way. So you've got to ask yourself, maybe they're doubting right before they make their purchase. I don't know. But here is that hockey stick moment, okay? This is where you got the hockey stick. It's that 10th exposure. When you get to that 10th exposure, bam, boom, that's when you start seeing ROI. So the ROI conversation, dealing with those plagued with IGS, a lot of it is the data behind the science here, and that is understanding that frequency is the key. Digital, print, radio, TV, frequency is the key. We all know it. We've just had a hard time proving it. Well, Nielsen now gives us numbers. These numbers to me make complete logical sense. Now, what about somebody just chatted a question across? This is kind of funny. What about the devil's advocates out there? The devil's advocates make our lives crazy, and it's okay. We just need to learn to deal with them. I had an advertiser not long ago say, Ryan, I bet you could come up with a fact or stat for anything. You're probably correct, sir. I just am exposed to too many numbers. So this chart will work well for emotional and logical buyers. But if you are a logical person and you are a logical buyer and a logical seller, you might struggle conveying this to an emotional person. How do you do it? Pretty straightforward. You can show them the numbers, but you have to focus on the feeling around those numbers. Let me give you an example. Mrs. Advertiser, one of the things that we're finding out from my other clients that are very similar to you is that the more times an ad runs, the greater the return on investment that we're seeing. I recently was talking to Jane Doe over at Acme Consulting, and Jane said to me, Ryan, after the first couple of ads, I was kind of wondering to myself, man, I'm not seeing much ROI here. And as the third ad ran, I was getting nervous. And that fourth ad, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is working. And then you said to me, Ryan, have faith. And I did, and I believed. And then as the ads kept rolling, when we got to that 10th week, man, all of a sudden we started seeing some return on investment. Marketing is about emotion in that particular case. Somebody else chatted across. I feel like I'm 50-50, like I'm half logical and half emotional. Well, if you feel like you're 50-50, like half logical, half emotional, that means you're emotional because you can't make a stinking decision, okay? I know the person that chatted that across. I know they're not easily offended, okay? So if you don't know whether you're logical or emotional, probably you're emotional more than likely, because logical people, they know it. 2 and 2 is 4. Okay, for me, 2 and 2 is like 4 with happy fingers, right? Because I'm an emotional, creative type of person. I think this is a great slide to have in your deck as you talk about exposure, because if we can get people to higher frequencies, that's when we're really going to see some better ROI for them. Okay, number 6. And friends, I'm sorry, I won't have time to get to all your questions. I apologize. There's about 70 or so that are listed. We'll do our best. I'm trying to weave them into the conversation. All right, number 6, you've got to show that you're going to provide reporting even on print. You got to show that you're going to provide reporting even on radio, anything traditional. You got to show them on the sales call that you're going to provide reporting. So this is what it might look like. So on your screen now is the basics. Okay, I'm not a designer, I'm a sales guy. Clearly you can tell from my poor grammar and spelling, I'm not a journalist, okay? All right, this is called a marketing impact report. Now, oh, look at all you taking screenshots. That's funny. I can tell when you take a screenshot, by the way. Look at you all taking screenshots. Okay, it's fine. It's no big deal. So when you see this, what I want you to see is the number in red at the bottom right. So in January and February, how do you feel being tracked, by the way? In January and February, I can show them the report will grow over the courses of the month that they're running with us. So the Metro Monthly Magazine in January, 55,000 readers. Now that's the total audience. If you wanted to include pass along, you can, but if you're not going to calculate sort of pass along on your e-newsletter, then you probably shouldn't report that on the print side. The number is probably going to be a little skewed. I mean, it's kind of up to you, but I really would encourage you to consider at the end of every month, you want to outsource this task to like a outsourcing company, like somebody like Mike Obert at OpenLook Business Solutions or somebody like that. Outsource this type of work rather than bog down your sales assistant or team with it. At the end of the year, when it comes time for a renewal, this is my recap. Nothing has to be created. They've seen it every month. They've seen the numbers grow. When I'm on a sales call, an initial sales call with somebody, I like to show this so they can see, hey, we're going to give you a report. We're going to show you what this would potentially look like. Now, let's just say as an example that you're using a company like January Spring to do your print tracking, like you're going to load your audience database into their database and track people's phone by device ID. That would be a line in this report, just as an example. Now, what I would encourage you to consider is if you're going to have the great ROI conversation you hope to have, you got to show this. Remember, friends, and I mentioned it in the podcast this month, it's very important. Remember, a lot of times people don't buy your traditional media because you don't give them a report to show their boss that it's worked. You don't give them a report that shows that it even occurred. So if you don't want to show how it works, at least you need to show how it occurred. And I think that's a really important piece. So this marketing impact report is awesome. Now, let me ask you a question. How many of you, when I said to you, oh, look at all you people taking screenshots, were you aware that I could tell on this end that you're taking a screenshot? How do you feel about being tracked? How do you feel? How does it make you feel when you know that I can see that out of the people that are here, 22% are actually checking their email and not watching the screen? How does it make you feel that I have that data? I don't care whether you're watching or not. I'm glad you're here. But you've got to ask yourself this question, focus point number 7. Tracking's great, but what about your customers that hate being tracked? Focus point number 7. Tracking is great, but what about your customers that don't like being tracked? What? Never thought about it that way. How do you think they feel? Okay. Now remember, I'm talking about your advertisers, not you guys. Okay. All right. So this is how they feel. From Social Media Examiner is the source. And I think Social Media Examiner is actually on the webinar today. All right. So 55% of those surveyed, when they find out they're being tracked, 55% are kind of like, they're neither here nor there. They're kind of like, in the middle, meh. That's how they kind of feel. 21% love it. They're very positive. Like, yes, no, I'm sorry. 21% are positive. 9% are like very positive. 7% are negative. 8% are negative. Half the people are kind of like sort of indifferent, but you've got a pool of people out there that don't like being tracked. Here's something interesting from my mouth to you. My children, my sons that are older now, they don't like being tracked. Most people don't like being tracked. Most people think that it's kind of creepy, and they're kind of like, yeah. I think that 55% of people like, I don't know. If you really drilled into it, I would tell you the vast majority of people don't like it. So you can say to your advertiser, what about all the people that don't want to be tracked? What about the people that consume media from other medias in other channels where you can't track or they don't want to be tracked or they're not going to track? All right, I'm 47 years old. I go to the internet. A website pops up. We've all seen it. Pops up. We're going to be using cookies on our website. It's a big thing that comes across the web page. We're going to use cookies to track you. And I'm kind of like, okay, do it, and I click on it. Right? That's what a lot of people do. Not everybody. Just all of us over the age of 40. So a lot of you on this webinar today, a lot of people that are out there today that are like, nuh-uh, I'm going to track me. I'm going to close that. You're not cookieing me. So you've got to ask yourself over the course of the next 6 months, 6 years, are people going to stop clicking on stuff because they get tired of being tracked? I predict that our click-through rates are going to statistically go down pretty dramatically because I know that my kids, 18, 20, they don't want to be tracked, tired of it. So I think you might want to ask that question. So you want everything to be trackable. What about the people that are willing to engage with you, Mr. or Mrs. Advertiser, but they don't want to be tracked? What about those people? Well, I don't want those people. You sure? Because there might be a group of selected people of they really want to engage with you. They just don't want to be tracked. And I think that's an important piece. Here's another thing that's super important for all of us to remember. And the source on this is a website, clutch.co. Advertising through traditional mediums is seen as the most trustworthy. 61% of consumers trust TV, print, 58%. Radio podcasts, 45%, out of home, billboards, those things you see at Lifetime Fitness, 42%. So advertising through traditional mediums is seen as the most trustworthy. Hey, I'm not against digital, not at all. I love digital advertising. I'm not against it. I just recognize that we have to be really careful because the least trustworthy advertising mediums are online and social media at 41% and 38%. Now, that's not far off of the other percentages, but it is at the bottom. So you've got to ask yourself, where are we at? What are we doing? What are we pitching? What's the narrative that we're sharing out there? And if we're not careful, we're going to get left behind because we're letting people get away with thinking that if they don't get immediate ROI, they're not seeing success. And they actually are. They just don't know it because we haven't done a great job explaining the sales funnel. Now, what about the people, though, quite honestly, that they're just stuck? They're saying, hey, I'm not going to buy. I'm not going to do anything I can't track and that kind of thing. Well, gather up success stories. Gather up case studies. Gather up data. And then show that intelligence. You got to gather up those success stories. So let me show you what it might look like. It might look like something like this. So here is what I would refer to as one of my market intelligence reports. You might have a sales assistant gather it. You might use Media Radar, IMS, Kantar Media, somebody like that to help you develop it. All right, so Black Rifle Coffee Company at the bottom has said to me, Ryan, love you, mean it, brother, but I am not going to advertise because I can't track it. And if I can't track it, it doesn't exist. So I right away know this person is not real bright, just as an example. So when I'm meeting with him or her, I want to be saying, all right, so thank you for the time, Mr. Black Rifle Coffee Company. In 2019, you spent in the neighborhood of $35,000, $45,000 with us over the course of the year. We gave you back some great reporting to show you the impact that you had, but you've told me that you're going to be spending zero with us in 2020. So your customer reach is zero. Now we've got two of your competitors here at Coffee News running with us. In 2019, Acme Coffee spent a little bit more than you, but not a lot. Jones Coffee Company was pretty close to spending what you spent with us. In 2020, I can't tell you exactly what they're going to do. However, I can tell you that I've not received any indication that they're not going to advertise. Same thing with Acme Coffee Company. You've told me that you're not going to advertise. So your customer reach is going to be dropping from 635,000, or I guess closer to 500,000. So just over 500,000 exposures you will lose. And guess what's going to happen? These numbers, okay, from your competitors, they're actually going to grow because you're not there to chew up that other piece of market. Their market share is going to grow. Yours goes to zero. Theirs is going to grow just by the simple nature that you're not there. Their share of voice goes up because you went completely off the map. So the question, and you've heard me say this before, the question I would ask of them is, so do you want to be like everybody else and be kind of competitive right here? Do you want to be like Acme that spends more? They dominate the market. You're saying you don't even want to have a presence. You're not even here in the middle. You're not even competitive. You're not even down at the lowest level we can help you. You're not even on the field. If this is a game of football, you're not even showing up for the game at all. Your chances of winning the hearts and minds of our readers, our listeners, our viewers, that's almost impossible because you're not even on the field. Now, some of you have chatted across. Oh, and so I'd end that by saying you need to stand your grounds. Get it? Nobody else thinks that's funny? Okay, I think it's funny. Okay, thank you, Mark. It's important for us to be able to show what's the reality of it. Okay, so because some of you are sales wimps, you're asking this question. And I'm saying that intentionally, okay? You can't be a wimp in the sales business. You can't be a wimp in the media sales business. Come on. You got to be superstars. You got to be sales superstars. I'm not saying anything that's not public. All this information is publicly available. You could go onto our website. You can go look at the magazine. You can listen to the podcast. You can find out what these people are spending. You can figure it out. Any advertiser can do that. They just don't. So the ROI conversation gets really super confusing because they don't actually know what other companies are doing unless they use some type of reporting service. Now, you can either have an admin do this, a sales assistant do this, you can outsource this type of work, or you can just do it yourself. Look through a magazine, your competitors every month, look through your magazine every month, or more importantly, go to Magazine Manager or Newspaper Manager and pull it. You can pull the data. Now, what I'm going to do though, is I'm not going to give the exact number. I'm going to give a range. So I'm going to log into Magazine Manager and I'm going to go and pull the spend reports from a particular category last year. Whoop, it's going to pull it up right on the screen. I'm able to see what other advertisers spent, and then I'm going to give a ballpark range to other folks when they're starting to say, well, I can't do this because I can't track it. All right, let's look at your market. Do you want to be present, competitive, or dominant? Well, I have no budget. Okay, so you want to be non-existent. No, I'm sure you don't. So use Magazine Manager to help you drive these reports. Now, this is a spend range. Great question. This is the spend range with me, with my media. I can pull that out of Magazine Manager or Newspaper Manager. Now, what I can do for the whole market is I can use like Media Radar, IMS. I can use tools like that to be able to pull the data as well. But for me, this is enough to really help people understand 0 is 0. And friends, that's not where we want to be at. All right, so let's wrap up. Selling to advertisers plagued by IGS. If you're trying, the big takeaway should be, if you're trying to fight the good fight, you have to know who you're talking to. And you've got to come to that conversation with more than data, because the vast majority of people that you're dealing with are emotional buyers. And so you need to have the right data for them. But typically, emotional buyers are sold by showing them the fear of missing out. One of the strongest things that this slide does is show zeros, shows that they're going to be missing out. But I would tell you, friends, that in the end, an educated advertiser always buys more from me. I know I have some advertisers, I've trained them so well that they buy advertising almost as good as I do. But let me end with this. So John Wanamaker is one of the founders of Macy's. And John is very, very famous for saying that, you know, I know for a fact that 50% of my advertising works. I just don't know exactly what 50%. So you've got to ask yourself, does everything have to be tracked to prove that it works? Some people you'll never convince them. But for those that you can educate, I believe they will buy more from you. And there's power also in your CRM to build the reports and present the data, if applicable, that could make all the potential difference in the world. Okay, if you liked this webinar, you can find all of our webinars that we've ever done. Go over to 360adsales.com. We've been doing these webinars for almost 2 or 3 years. All those webinars live there. You can also reach out to the folks at the Magazine Manager and the Newspaper Manager. They'd be more than happy to point you towards other videos that will help you with the CRM or will potentially help you with sales, like all of these videos are available as well. All right, friends, appreciate you all for being here. Thank you so much to the Magazine Manager and the Newspaper Manager. Reach out to them and tell them thank you. If it wasn't for them, these type of webinars being available for free would never, ever happen. I don't do much for free. anymore, and I'm blessed to be busy. If I can help you and if I could train your team, I'd love to do that. Love to come to your office. Go over to 360adsales.com. Drop me an email. I'm always happy to help you at any way, shape, or form at any time. Always happy to help. All right, friends, God bless you. We'll see you out on the street. Thanks again to Mirabel Technologies for supporting this webinar. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to all the questions, but a couple of you asked great ones, so I'll be sure to send those back to you as well. All right, friends, take care. Get out there on the street and sell something. We'll see you on the next webinar coming real soon. Be on the lookout for that. Take care. Oh, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. All right, take care, everybody.